Right now, a Richland Center woman says an armed man showed up at their vigil for the victims in the recent mass shootings.
And new proposals at the Capitol can give adult victims of childhood sexual abuse a new chance at justice.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now at 6.
Thanks for joining us tonight. The gun debate continues to rage on across the country as the president spends the day visiting El Paso and Dayton, meeting with the victims in the recent mass shootings.
In southern Wisconsin, a Richland Center mother wants to start a larger conversation after what she considers a frightening situation at a candlelit vigil last night. Madison O'Neill has the story.
The candlelight vigil held outside the courthouse here was meant to honor the victims of recent shootings, but it took an unexpected turn.
It was terrifying, actually. There was no compassion in that scene last night, and that's what this world is lacking.
Compassion.
The vigil was right here on the sidewalk. Right
what
there.
Autumn Lent and about a dozen others were trying to show by paying respect to the victims of recent mass shootings across the country.
Crosswalk there, and that's where he stood.
Lent says they weren't protesting guns.
We were making it about the victims, and he made it about himself.
He, a driver, stopped at a stop sign,
Yelling about his Second Amendment.
who Lent says then came back 5 minutes later.
We just made someone very angry. Now they're here with their gun, and we don't know what they're capable of.
She hid her 8-year-old son behind her.
What went through my mind in those first 10 seconds was, this is probably what the people in the last 2 weeks in the mass shootings experienced, someone walking towards them with a rifle. They didn't know what was going to happen.
Those seconds didn't last long. Police arrived in less than a minute.
Most man with gun calls are bad. I mean, they turn into be bad situations, as we see all over the country these days.
After speaking with the man and learning he wasn't a threat, officers explained to those at the vigil that the man had the constitutional right to be there with his gun, which Lent appreciates and understands.
And they did a very good job about that.
Acting Police Chief Billy Jones hopes people will be mindful of how they exercise that right.
Just remember what kind of message you're sending to everybody else.
For Lent, it's all about the approach.
It's about somehow changing things so everybody can feel safe and still have their constitutional rights.
In Richland Center,
to just be more compassionate for each other.
Madison O'Neill, News 3 Now.
Police say the man with the gun wasn't violent and didn't point the gun at anyone. And after speaking with both parties, were able to resolve the situation peacefully.
A vendor at the state fair was ordered to remove a controversial T-shirt for sale. That shirt said LGBT, which stood for liberty, guns, beer, and Trump. At least one person complained the shirt was offensive to the LGBTQ community. Online, other people took issue with the pro-gun shirts in the wake of 2 mass shootings over the weekend. But this stand was only asked to remove the one shirt. Another drowning to report in the Wisconsin River. A man loses his life this afternoon while visiting a park in Lake Delton with his family. Police department only identifying him as a 40-year-old man from rural Wisconsin Dells. They say he had limited swimming ability and was wading in a shallow area at Newport Park near a steep drop-off when he went under the water. Rescue teams found him a few minutes later but were unable to revive him.
The Badgers football team says they want Quintez Cephas back following his acquittal last week. Cephas was charged with 2 counts of sexual assault, but last Friday a jury found him not guilty. Cephas has already applied for readmission to the university. Coming up in sports, hear from head coach Paul Christ and why he says Cephas deserves to come back. A Lyft driver accused of sexual assault will not be charged.
Well, the Dane County District Attorney says there's not enough evidence to prosecute the man. Our Amanda Quintana joins us now with more details. Amanda?
The 24-year-old Lyft driver was arrested by Madison police early Friday morning after a woman said he locked the doors and forced her to perform sex acts. Police recommended a charge of second-degree sexual assault of a person under the influence. Today, telling me that was an appropriate referral, and they did have probable cause for the arrest. DA Ozan says there isn't enough evidence to prove the crime beyond a reasonable doubt.
If new evidence surfaces, we can reconsider this for formal charges. And we honor the courage it takes victims to report these cases. We do so every single day as we apply the law to the new cases across our desks.
He says this is a legal analysis and does not speak to the credibility of the victim. As for this case, it is considered closed for now. Detectives are reaching out to the woman to tell her.
Well, getting a look at the weather now. Meteorologist Gary Canalti joins us with our first alert forecast. Gary?
Eric, it's been a quiet afternoon across southern Wisconsin. Temperatures have been warm. The humidity levels have been up a little bit, but all the thunderstorm activity has stayed to our north. You can see the storms firing up around Rhinelander and through much of north central Wisconsin, heading down into the Green Bay area. In fact, severe thunderstorm warnings are in effect for the Green Bay area. Some reports of power lines down, sparking fires through parts of Shawano and Brown counties north and west of Green Bay this afternoon from those storms. But you can see they're moving mainly in an easterly direction, and only the far northern portions of Juneau and Adams counties have seen any thunderstorms at all. There's a marginal risk if a storm should develop across southern Wisconsin for an isolated severe thunderstorm this evening. The higher threat is up to the north. Temperatures right now are still pretty warm, low to mid 80s with dew point temperatures in the middle 60s to around 70, but both the temperatures and the dew points will drop as a cold front comes through. By tomorrow morning, temperatures will drop into the lower 60s. Look for sunny skies tomorrow and a cooler and less humid day with a high of 78. That's your News 3 Now First Alert forecast.
A woman whose dog died in a hot car outside Lambeau Field is now facing a felony charge. The 55-year-old made an initial appearance in Brown County Court today and was released on a signature bond. She's charged with a felony count of mistreatment of animal resulting in death. Police were called to Lambeau Field July 12th, where the golden retriever was found unresponsive in the car. A class action lawsuit has been filed on behalf of Wisconsin customers impacted by the Capital One data breach. That suit alleges Capital One violated the Wisconsin Consumer Act when it failed to protect the private information of people who applied for credit cards with the company.
I think what's most important is that anyone who thinks they may have applied for a Capital One credit card or had a credit card that was taken over by Capital One, including store cards, should immediately review their credit reports and should immediately look through their credit portfolio to see if they've been affected.
Capital One executives said the breach, which happened in March and April of last year, impacted 100 million applicants. Around 140,000 Social Security numbers and 80,000 bank account numbers were obtained by a hacker, along with other private information.
Democratic lawmakers say new proposals can give adult victims of childhood sexual abuse a new chance at justice. Rose Schmidt spoke with women who say they're hoping their stories of alleged abuse will inspire others.
Charlotte, the proposals expand mandatory reporting requirements for members of the clergy and give victims of child sexual abuse an infinite amount of time to come forward. But the bills face a long road ahead in the state legislature. Off Commercial Avenue in Madison is a building where Debbie McNulty and Rebecca Martin Bird say they spent a good chunk of their childhood.
I would say it was my entire life.
The women say back in the 1980s, ministers at Calvary Gospel Church sexually abused them. But when they told church officials, police weren't notified. Rebecca says she was 12 when it first started. Debbie, 11.
You know, I was told that if I told my story, people wouldn't come to church. If they didn't come to church, they were going to burn in hell, and that was my fault. So inherently, right away, you learn that it's your fault.
I never felt clean. I never felt relieved of what had happened to me, and I felt like I carried the stain.
But that stain is what Debbie says led her to start a blog where she shared her story and soon had more than a dozen people sharing stories of abuse allegations, all from the same church. Many of the women are now in their 40s.
Remembering what has happened, it's traumatic.
A group of Democratic lawmakers are introducing a bill that would force clergy members to report allegations of child abuse, even if they learn about them in confessional or private conversations. Another proposal would eliminate the statute of limitations on child sexual assault lawsuits.
We know that people need time to come forward, time to process the trauma of what has happened to them.
Under current Wisconsin law, children who were sexually assaulted have until age 35 to file civil action. But alleged victims say it can take years to understand what happened to them.
You know, I grew up not trusting any single adult around me.
I still don't sleep. I'm hypervigilant. I have PTSD.
But they're coming forward in hopes of giving strength to others.
There's healing to be had from speaking your story.
Calvary Gospel Church released a statement to us saying, "We are reviewing those allegations. We will continue to cooperate with law enforcement officials as required." Bills eliminating the statute of limitations on child sexual abuse have failed in past sessions. Some faith-based groups are expressing concerns about removing that statute of limitation entirely and say that they want to preserve the tradition of the confessional. And Republican leaders did not respond to our request for comment about this story.
Wow. All right. Rose Schmidt reporting tonight. Rose, thank you.
The Kloss family home in Barron, Wisconsin is now gone. Crews demolished it over the last couple of days. That home is where James and Denise Kloss were murdered. Their then 13-year-old daughter, Jamie, was abducted last fall. She escaped after being held captive for 88 days. Jamie herself had said she could not return to that home.
Former Democratic gubernatorial candidate Josh Pade plans to challenge freshman Republican U.S. Representative Brian Stile in next year's election. Stile represents Southeast Wisconsin's 1st congressional district and is in the middle of his first term. Stile replaced former House Speaker Paul Ryan. The 39-year-old Pade is a Kenosha attorney who received less than 1% of the vote in the Democratic primary for governor last year. Still ahead tonight, outfitting local police canines with specialty ballistic vests.
And the Dane County Humane Society is coming out against a new proposal it says could result in more dogs being euthanized.
And then coming up at 10, the city of Madison approves funding for a multi-million-dollar community center for a Southside neighborhood. There are plans for the facility tonight at 10. All this week, members of the Department of Justice are meeting with school teachers and administrators on how to better respond to online threats.
It's called digital threat assessment, and this training helps them intervene when a school receives any report that a student is showing concerning behavior, and to make sure the school and community are both safe.
If a mass attack happens, it doesn't matter how great your response is, the harm is already done. And so the whole point of this training is to really stop this from happening in the first place by detecting signs of concerning behavior and intervening with that student to steer them onto a different track.
Teachers are also trained how to better connect with the student to figure out what's going on in their life.
Dane County Humane Society, along with other shelters statewide, are voicing opposition to newly proposed regulations on homeless dogs coming into the state. The Department of Ag, Trade, and Consumer Protection wants to require dogs to be tested for 2 diseases, brucellosis and heartworm, before being allowed into the state. Dane County Humane Society says the testing could eliminate the state's ability to save thousands of dogs. Anyone who wants to submit comments or feedback to lawmakers or DATCAP have until the end of today to do so. 2 UW-Madison police canines are getting some added protection thanks to a local pet store and community donations. Mounds Pet Food raised nearly $20,000 to pay for 2 custom-fitted bulletproof vests. Throughout the month of July, Mounds asked customers to round up their purchase or buy a plush canine toy for the Vest a Dog fundraiser. Each vest has a price tag between $850 to $1,200. Along with the vest, the community donations will pay for 80 canine first aid kits.
Madison Night Market returns to downtown tomorrow night, the 3rd of 4 night markets this summer. That's located in the heart of the city on State at Gilman Street. It'll run from 6 until 10 p.m. There'll be live music, dozens of vendors as well. The final Madison Night Market this year will be next month, slated for September 12th. And still ahead tonight, just days after the acquittal of Quintez Cephas, Badger football players say they'd like him back on the team. A word from head coach Paul Christ as well. That's ahead in sports.
But first, we're anticipating a comfortable end of the work week. Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti will have his full forecast next.
Well, Gary joins us now, and we're relatively dry around here, but Green Bay's got a lot of action right now with the weather department.
Yeah, some severe thunderstorms have moved through the Green Bay metro area. A lot of reports of power lines down, even sparking some fires over parts of Shawano and Brown counties. Right now, the one severe thunderstorm warning is now just in the eastern portion of the Green Bay metro area. Severe thunderstorm warning until 6:45, heading into the southern portion of Door County. But you can see to the south where we are, things have been very quiet. One little thunderstorm cell trying to move into parts of northern Juneau and Adams counties, and a little bit of a line behind it from around north of Black River Falls to between Wausau and Stevens Point. We'll have to see whether or not those can move enough southeastward to at least affect the northern parts of our viewing area. You can see the general movement to the east-southeast rather than toward the southeast, farther out to the west. Nothing really showing up on radar. So at this point, the best chances for rain tonight are going to be north and northeast of Madison, where an isolated strong to severe thunderstorm is still possible. Storm Prediction Center has a marginal risk even into southern Wisconsin, but that's only if a storm can develop. At this point, I think the chances for even getting some rain are pretty unlikely from Madison southward. Live view from the Quebe Radio Skycam in Platteville, hardly a cloud to be found there, let alone a thunderstorm. WISC Skycam showing just a few cumulus clouds, and that's about it. The Edgewater Skycam in downtown Madison showing one cumulus cloud behind the state capitol. Our high temperature today, 83. The low temperature, 62. So another day with above normal temperatures. That will change for tomorrow. 82 is the current temperature. Winds are out of the southwest at 11. The dew point temperature is at 65 degrees. Temperatures are in the low to mid 80s through much of southern Wisconsin. La Crosse still at 88. But look what happens behind the cold front to the north and west. Those temperatures drop off into the 70s, and that's what's coming for tomorrow. And the dew point temperatures are in the mid to upper 60s here drop into the 50s and even some 40s across northwestern Minnesota. That's the drier air settling southward, so not only will daytime high temperatures be in the upper 70s, but nighttime low temperatures will drop into the 50s. Weather track, the upper level winds now becoming a little more northwesterly, so that's going to push this cold front southward. The heat still pretty much centered over the southwestern portion of the country. You can see the clockwise circulation of high pressure aloft really baking the southwestern part of the country. But again, as this cold front drops through, our winds will shift around to the northwest, and that'll bring in cooler and drier air where temperatures are in the 70s for much of North Dakota and northern Minnesota. That's what's on the way. It should also sweep out the humidity at least for a couple of days into the weekend and maybe even in the early part of next week. So on future track, you can see the chances for rain head off to the east. Look for sunny skies for tomorrow. Look for clear skies for tomorrow night and plenty of sunshine for Friday as well, with comfortable high temperatures in the upper 70s to around 80 degrees. Forecast for tonight calls for skies to be partly cloudy, an outside chance of a shower or thunderstorm mainly north of Madison this evening, then clear overnight with a low of 62. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, cooler, less humid, high temperature at 78 degrees. Future track, again, just a chance for a shower or thunderstorm north and east of Madison this evening. Clear overnight, sunny skies for tomorrow, highs in the upper 70s. Tomorrow night, we drop into the mid 50s as Mother Nature provides a little air conditioning, and look for high temperatures in the upper 70s to around 80 on Friday. 7 to 10 day forecast. Nice weather through the weekend. Slight chance of a shower or thunderstorm Saturday night into Sunday and Monday. A little better chance Tuesday, but comfortable temperatures for much of next week.
Head coach Paul Chryst and his players spoke about Quintez Cephas' potential return to the football program. That's coming up next.
Hi, I'm Michelle Corolla. Tonight on the news at 9, sometimes shelter dogs need to get from place to place, and that can be expensive. Meet a team of dedicated volunteers as they get a family of dogs from Kentucky all the way to Wisconsin. It's a special report only on Fox.
It's a waiting game for former Badgers receiver Quintez Cephas and his former teammates. Cephas has officially applied to be readmitted to the university, and he wants a response by tomorrow. Now, his teammates practice today, and they don't know whether or not Cephas will rejoin them or not. There are several steps between right now and Cephas running out onto the field as a Wisconsin football player again, and that starts with being readmitted. Now, if the right dominoes fall in the right order, his teammates say they definitely welcome him back.
I'd love for Q to come back. You know, that's our brother, and we would love to have him back on the field flying around with us again. Big, physical, fast receiver, strong, great hands, and I think he'd be a great addition like he was. He was a great addition. He was a great part of this team, and I would love to have him back.
We want the best from, I would love to have him back. You know, that's my brother. Just a good guy to be around, you know, in practice, outside of football, just a great guy to be around. So I would love for him to come back here, if that's what he wants to do.
Head coach Paul Christ wants no part of social media, but says he heard some of his players tweeting support for Cephas' return. He said as long as the support is genuine, he's a fan, and as long as Cephas coming back would be the best thing for Quintez, he's a fan of that as well.
If it's best for Q, and it truly is for him, then I know his teammates and I know how we feel, we would welcome him back. And yet we got to make sure, and we've talked with the guys about it, you know, it's not about us. It's what's best for him. And if that is, we absolutely would.
The Packers hit the field for their first preseason game tomorrow night against the Texans. Now, for rookies, it'll be their first NFL game of any kind, whether it counts or not. Family night at Lambeau is the closest thing to a game-like atmosphere at any training camp in the league, but that's not even set up like a game. Tomorrow night will be, and the first-year players will be getting a lesson on how to be a pro, even earbud etiquette.
It's always good, you know, banging against the players, you know, our players each and every day. And now we got an opportunity to help another team in here this week. Hey, so it's good.
Be professional. It was practice the other night, and it was, you know what I'm saying, it was crazy. So I'm expecting nothing less than that. You know what I'm saying? I'm excited, honestly, just to see, you know, just everything surrounding it.
The family night was a pretty sweet experience, you know, to see the love of the Packers community. But to actually go out and do it in a game setting, that's going to be totally different.
Brewers center fielder Lorenzo Cain not in the lineup tonight against the Pirates. Fouled the ball off his left leg last night. X-rays negative, and the Brewers are off tomorrow as well. Christian Yelich also not starting. His back was acting up. The Brewers go for the sweep tonight. They're already up 2-0 in Pittsburgh. Cubs and A's on a gorgeous day at Wrigley Field for a little afternoon baseball. 1-1 in the fourth. Ian Happ is going to make it 5-1 in the fourth. Grand slam to left center. Cubs play more long ball. Kyle Schwarber, only 2 on this time. 2-2 pitch with 2 outs. Goes to the seats. Cubs win 10-1. They lead the Brewers and Cards by 3.5 in the division. Keston here, another home run for the Brewers. He's been hot. He's got 12 now. I think he's going to make plans to stay a while with the big club.
I would say so, but it's kind of like watching the wild card race now. They're kind of starting.
Yeah, that first or second wild card, unless somebody has a good or bad week or weekend, who knows? But wild card for sure now.
Gary and his Cubs playing well right now. And,
yeah, long ways to go.
They're 9-0 with you in the ballpark.
Yeah, I'm going about another week and a half.
Just don't go to any Brewer Cup games.
I got one of those coming up Labor Day weekend. Let's take a look at radar right now. Line of thunderstorms developing up around Stevens Point. Severe thunderstorm warning has just come out for areas north of Juneau and Adams counties until 7:15. So we'll watch that line of storms. But the general movement is more toward the east than toward the southeast. So hopefully that will keep it north of our viewing area. Otherwise, temperatures right now still pretty warm, low to mid 80s across southern Wisconsin with dew point temperatures in the middle 60s. But these numbers will come down for tomorrow. Look for high temperatures in the upper 70s for tomorrow and Friday, and very nice weather for the rest of the week.
Thanks for joining us for News 3 Now at 6.
Enjoy your evening. We'll see you back here at 10.